Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, so far, the inks that I have shown by this company, which is Pilot, today's ink is just your basic Pilot black ink. Comes in cartridges. You get one pretty much anytime you buy a Pilot pen. So far, pretty much none of the Pilot inks, this is my box of Pilot cartridges, none of them have been having a particularly good showing, which I really can't explain because they're pretty decent inks. So, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, as you can see from this chromatography, this black ink is intense. Not an overabundance of water resistance. As you can see, most of it flees, and I mean, there's like an inescapable darkness level of black that migrates up to the top, so it's gonna be a bit messy. So, watch out for that. All the tests were done in this Pilot Night with a medium nib. What is that? Ugh, Rouge Hematite does not agree with this pen. Anyways, thought I'd compare it to some other black inks. Here we have Mont Blanc's Mystery Black, which, as you can see, it's like a purple that they took too far into black. And then this Black Eel, this is Clairefontaine paper, so when I put it down and then I use, the way I make these smears is I use a paint mixing knife to sort of smear it around. And since it takes so long to settle into the paper, I sort of mushed it around, and that's why it looks so thin in areas. Same with Heart of Darkness. As you can see, it is very, very dark, very, very black, very, very rich. As an end note, I decided to add some Parker Quink. But up here we see Pilot Black. And if we sort of pull back, that is the most intensely dark black out of the bunch. I mean, even the thinnest areas, for the most part, are darker than any of the other ones. It is a very dark, intense black. So, top down in density, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. On here, it behaved quite well. This is generally how I like my black inks to behave. There's no shading. The end. It's a solid black, no nonsense. Here was decent flow. Not a heavy gray trying to pass for a black. No shading, no sheen. I said the dry times felt a little long because this is a Japanese medium, which means a lot of times it's more in line with what Western pen makers consider fine. But no bleed, feathering, and spread. It was a decent pen, paper, and ink combo on here. So here you see it dyed the paper a lot, but what's at the center is fairly dark, fairly clear. It did get a little bit patchy, but it's not too bad. Not a lot of echo, especially considering how black of a black ink this is. Now here's Rhodia, where we started having trouble. It took 17 seconds to dry. Again, there's no shading. This is a black ink, very solid. So the dry times felt long for this pen and nib, and there were touches of bleed. I mean, in the scrub, but then there were like one or two other places where it managed to poke through. And there was some feathering. It's subtle, it's very quiet. It's these little feathers, but they pop up here and there. It's not situational specific on this page. So that wasn't encouraging. Again, kind of made a mess. A lot of the ink moved around on the page. It exploded, it feathered, not great. Here's the other problem. Tomoe River Paper, where, as you'll see, hopefully you'll be able to see that. Maybe I need to get it closer. It still smears. You want to know how long ago I wrote this? Almost a month. Still smears. And it took forever to dry. While I was writing this, I started having trouble like holding on to it as I kept writing because all of this wasn't fully dry. So I left it for more than 4 minutes, And it's still smeared. It just essentially never dried on here. It started to drive me crazy. And on top of that, it's not even like the payoff is once it dries, it's not going anywhere. No. This is completely gone. It is even darker on camera. In person, the faint gray that it dyed the page is the exact same color as the writing. So maybe if you spill some water on this and you need to recover it, hold it up to a weird camera. But yeah. Next is 20-pound copier paper, where again, not a good showing. There was a lot of spread. See, the line width got quite broader. There's feathering, there's spread, there's bleed, and that's a lot of bleed for a medium nib, especially a Japanese medium nib. I do like to see a much better performance than that in an ink. Very much prefer it. I said this ink appears to be quite chemically aggressive, just the way it seems to just not really want to play well with those papers. Again, seriously dyed the page. A lot of feathering, a lot of exploding. Although it is the darkest that it's been so far, so. Next is Mead Notebook Paper, where it dried instantly, which is nice. But if we look, we see spread and we see feathering, and it definitely is not good. There's bleed. The water test was insane. It started to act like chromatography paper. But again, I like to see better than this in a medium nib, especially Japanese medium. And lately, this Mead paper has been outperforming my terrible copier paper, so the fact that it still did this bad, not a good showing. Now, lately, I've had this freakishly good Moleskine paper that'll put up with anything. This is that same paper, and yet this ink did this. This is that exact same Moleskine paper. And look at what happened. It exploded. I mean, just look at the word feathering. That's insane. 3 seconds to dry, and it's a beautifully dark black. But, that's my absolutely shocked face. I don't know what happened. Dyed the page, it exploded, it feathered. But the thing is, it was already this explodey and feathery before we added the water. So I feel like, in a weird way, we can say that's a good water test, because that's pretty much exactly how it looked before we added water, sadly. Still, I mean, literally, like maybe 3 or 4 spots maybe got through. Intense echo, but yeah, so there you go. Pilot Black. It is an obscenely dark black. If you want a black ink, well, actually, I'd recommend Heart of Darkness or Noodler's Black. But this one is about as dark as you're going to get. But it's also not the best team player. So for your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.